Senator Scott is making his case to sit behind the Resolute desk at the White House, and he joins me now from Iowa, a place I'm sure he's spending a lot of time. Senator, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Senator, President Biden, he has condemned Hamas. However, he has avoided going after their patron, Iran, too strenuously. This even as U.S. forces came under attack this week by Iran-backed Houthi militants and took fire in Iraq. What would your strategy be, sir, your message here to address the larger threats that we face from Iran and its proxies?
Good morning. Thank you, Tom. It is very simple. If you do not put a target on Iran, they will continue their malignant behavior. There's no question at all that Hamas receives 90% of its resources from Iran. Hezbollah, funded by Iran. Iran is the strongest, most powerful, evil force on the planet. The state sponsor of terrorism, killing Americans in Israel and in Gaza. It is no doubt that what you need is a strong American president who puts Iran in their place. The consequence for American deaths must be on the hands and on the heads of Iran. Anything less than that, you will continue to see terrorism spread throughout the region and bases, American military personnel under fire in the region.
Senator, what does that look like, though? Is that about the U.S. Taking out Hezbollah, for instance, or maybe responding to the attacks that we have seen in Iraq and other places that have happened over the last 72 hours?
Well, it's a combination because it goes back at the last 2 years. We've had 83 different attacks on our soldiers, on Americans throughout the Biden administration with only 4 or 5 responses. The first thing that you do is you cripple Iran's economy by focusing on the sanctions in their energy sector. The second thing that you do is that you tell them that if there's a death of a hostage in their hands or in the hands of their proxies, there's going to be the price of someone's life in Iran. That is the only way for us to have a foreign policy that actually works. You must put the highest price on the folks who do the greatest damage. Hamas is just an extension, a proxy of Iran. If you want to bring Americans home, if you want to bring Israelis home, you have to focus not just on Hamas, but on Iran. You should eliminate Hamas from the face of the planet and then turn your attention to the nuclear enrichment program in Iran and their oil energy sector.
Senator, Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin this week. Do you believe that what we are seeing in Ukraine, Israel, and other attacks is coordinated by those 3 entities that we talk so much about, Iran, Russia, and China?
Yeah, there's no doubt that there's conversations going on. I've said it for the last several months. I'll continue to say it, that the new axis of evil is China, Russia, and Iran. They have been working together since 2014. Weakness in the American presidency attacks chaos and attacks around the world. We saw that in 2014, 2015, when President Obama drew a red line in Syria. Nothing happened. We saw an incursion, Crimea gone. Nothing happened. Every single time there's weakness in the White House, there's violence in the world. We can change that with a new president. That's why I'm going to be the next commander-in-chief.
Senator, this was former President Trump at a Palm Beach fundraiser recently. Watch this.
I read all of Biden's security people. Can you imagine? National defense people. And they said, gee, I hope Hezbollah doesn't attack from the north, because that's the most vulnerable spot. I said, wait a minute. You know, Hezbollah is very smart. They're all very smart. The press doesn't like when they say it. I said that President Xi of China, 1.4 billion people, he controls it with an iron fist. I said, he's a very smart man.
Senator, was that kind of description appropriate?
No. It was definitely not. One of the things we should not do is create daylight between America and Israel. Any negative comments about Prime Minister Netanyahu or positive comments about Hezbollah go in the exact opposite direction. What we need is not only a unified front, but we need the kind of power in the presidency that I will bring to our country and, frankly, to the world. We need to stand shoulder to shoulder, back to back, having our resources prepared to support Israel and making sure that every single thing we do reinforces the fact that when you have the kind of 9/11 event in Israel that would have cost us 40,000 plus Americans, we are going to be loyal to that ally and lethal to our common adversaries.
Let's talk about the Republican primary, Senator, of which you are a part. Latest polling still has you in the single digits. Former President Trump still way ahead of the pack. Is there something that you believe will happen over the next number of months that will fundamentally change the dynamics of this race? And what could that be? Because it's been fairly static in terms of a lot of these numbers for quite some time.
Well, national polls represent name recognition. My name recognition continues to grow, but we're not running a national campaign. There's no such thing as a national campaign. We are in Iowa because that's where the campaign will be won, and you have to have momentum coming out of Iowa. The good news is, as we continue to do our town halls, having events here, our crowds continue to grow. We are excited about where we are. When the opportunity comes to have that national conversation, A, we'll be in it, and B, I believe people are already responding here in Iowa, and they'll do the same thing around the country to an optimistic, positive message, as long as you have a backbone and you're anchored in conservatism.
But you don't think that there isn't something that is that yet you are waiting for to happen that could really change the dynamics of this race?
Well, obviously, every campaign cycle, something happens. The question is, are you prepared when it does? And that's our goal.
Before we go, sir, I want to get your take on the race for House Speaker. Just yesterday, the House Republican Conference voted to drop Jim Jordan as their nominee for Speaker after he failed to get the gavel on his third ballot. Republicans are now set to hear from candidates for Speaker during a closed-door forum on Monday. This is all unfolding ahead of that November the 17th deadline to fund the government. If you were the head of the party right now, what advice would you have for members who have paralyzed the GOP's agenda and ability to govern at this point?
Well, if I were already the president of the United States, I would say to my party, number one, the road to socialism runs right through a divided Republican Party, and the zoo called the House today is causing consternation. If the next election is about Joe Biden, we win. If it's about why we can't govern in the House of Representatives, we lose. Every single person who hates what's happened in the last 2 years, let's get our act together, because the last 2 years under Joe Biden has devastated families across this country. The last 2 years under Joe Biden has led to the death of 13 American soldiers because of the terrible withdrawal of Afghanistan. The last 2 years have devastated global affairs because a weak president has destroyed confidence in America. Let's not add to the lack of confidence in the great opportunity party, the only alternative for the American people. Let's get our jobs done, get a speaker, and do not come out of the room until it's done.
All right, live from Iowa, 2024 Republican presidential candidate, Senator Tim Scott.